Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another episode of the Draxx Life Podcast, where we'll chat about some of the weird and the wondrous. Let's get to the show. Okay, we're live. Yo, what's up? Happy belated Thanksgiving.
Same to you. How was yours?
It was good. Food, family, like you said in the video you posted, right? Thanksgiving's meant to be spent with friends, family, have a few drinks, eat good food.
Quality time.
Good holiday. Yeah. It's just like, there's no gifts. There's no like big lead up. It's just like a meal, which is like, you're going to eat a meal every day. But it's not, it's nice to be like, all right, we're going to eat a meal with family. Make effort to do it.
Exactly. And what I don't like is I saw scrolling through X, which I have to do.
Dude, you're like Spider-Man and Batman. You're like swinging.
I'm the Dark Knight, man.
Building to building with your grappling hook, just looking down, scoping out the territory.
I always have to. I'm the protector. I gotta watch what's happening. So where people are getting dressed up, and I saw, I'm not gonna name her, but it's a woman that you know as well. Huh. And I'll tell you backstage.
Off camera.
Yeah. And she has a table with about 30 chairs.
Damn. And
the decorations are all, it looks like if Martin Scorsese directed a movie and they decorated a set in Greenwich, Connecticut. So think about that. Like there's everything is just, it looked like the most expensive Thanksgiving you could ever think of in your entire life.
Yikes.
Yeah. And so that's what I was trying to say. The holidays is not about any of that. It's about, like you said, spending the QT, the quality time with your friends, your family, the people you care about, and having a couple drinks, maybe a couple tokes if that's what you're into. It's not about football. Like I don't care about NFL football. I really could care less. But it's not about any of that. It's about telling stories, telling jokes, and spending time. And that's what we did last night. It was good.
That's
for me
cool.
too.
Yeah. So late last night, I got a message from I got a message from Bobby A. It was a video, and he's like taking us through a tour of his like kitchen, and and I don't know.
It's true.
You were probably a little under the influence.
That was.
He's like, it was like a cooking show. You could do a cooking show because he's like, and this shelf, and he's going through like his herbs and spices. But what is that drink? Because you've talked about it before. I think you've talked about it on this program at one point. What is that drink?
It's called coquito. So it's a Puerto Rican eggnog. It's the best way to describe it. So what you do is you get some Bacardi rum or
white
Bacardi.
Rum, yep.
Yeah, white rum. Bacardi is the way you pronounce it correctly. And then you get powdered cinnamon, you get nutmeg. I actually use the actual nutmeg. You can get the granulated nutmeg as well. I was about to say mutmeg.
Mm-hmm. So you go get the actual
nutmeg.
Okay.
Yes.
You grind it yourself.
Correct. And then you get the cinnamon stick. Then you get leche condensada, which is condensed milk. Leche evaporada, which is evaporated milk, and then the crema de coco, which is the cream, like the cream of the coconut, the Coco Lopez. That's why they call me Babo. They call me Babo Coco Lopez on the holidays. You know what I'm saying? And
so, are you the one that makes this in your family?
I make it. I make it for, a lot of it is for myself, but other people know how to make it in the neighborhood. There's one guy actually that has a coquito selling. He has like a freelance business. Yeah, he's making some decent dough. He's making some decent dough selling coquitos, baby.
So there's one thing you left out in that video, because I think you were about to give away a secret, and then you were like, shut off the video.
I can't say it. I won't say it. I won't say it because there's a certain way you prepare it. I can't give it away.
But you have to like let it sit for a while, right?
Yeah. So you put all.
There's no heating. You don't cook it, do you?
I'm
That's the secret.
I'm gonna choose not to answer that question. I plead the fifth on that one. No comment. But they don't know which one you did. They're never gonna know which one you cook and which one you don't.
I thought that's what you, because you were about to say it, and then you were like, okay, and I'm gonna leave that one. I have to shut the video off.
No. And then so you get all the milks together, you get all those spices together, you pour in the rum, and then the settling time is the key. You leave it in the fridge for 3 days. It has to be at least 72 hours before you crack it open. There's the coquito. But people have different other secrets as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure that guy, he lives in the neighborhood. He's pretty cool, but it's like this guy, there's a reason why people are coming to him and like, yo, I need 2 bottles.
Have you had any? Have you tried it?
Yeah, it's good. Oh, it's better than mine. It's better than mine.
Well, so, and I guess one thing, like, can you change up the booze? Like, could you do like brandy or something like that?
I wouldn't recommend that.
White rum.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that at all.
Because like eggnog, they booze it up, and I think you'll use rum, or they'll use something else. I think like cognac or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I gotta try this at some point, dude. Because I know you've talked about it before.
You've lived in New York. Yeah, you lived in New York. You never had coquito before. Come on, man. What are you doing?
I didn't grow up in a Puerto Rican family in the Bronx, man. Come on, man.
Yeah, but you still lived around.
I know, I should try. But Latinos. Yeah, I don't know, where would I get it? Like, who? I've never been exposed to it where it was either I was at a party and it was like on the table, because it's like eggnog, right? Unless you're spending time with someone like for the holidays who makes it themselves. Like, I've never had, I think, homemade like boozy eggnog. I've had eggnog like you buy it at a grocery store, like the non-alcoholic, but I've never had like homemade eggnog. But I'd like to try.
But Chris, I gotta stop you right there. You live next door to Bushwick. There's a large Dominican and Puerto Rican contingent.
I mean, dude, it's definitely
I thought you would cross streams here.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever like. Honestly, I don't think I knew what it was until you told me on the show at one point.
Okay.
Because you brought it up. I remember we were talking about this was like maybe last Christmas. We recorded something, and you were like, "Yeah," and then you mentioned it, and then you're describing it. I was like, "Oh, interesting. I never had this before." But anyway, I'm glad you had a good Thanksgiving.
What was your menu? I never asked you that,
dude. So our menu is pretty traditional. It's like we do turkey. All the American fixings, right? You're doing turkey, mashed potato. My mom makes this like very good, almost like a dessert. Like a sweet potato casserole. So it's kind of like a mashed sweet potato with like tons of like butter. And then it has like a crust that's made of like brown sugar, cinnamon, and like crushed walnuts. And you put it in the oven. So it gets like this candied hard crust on the top. And then underneath it is just like a sweet, mashed, buttery, cinnamony sweet potato. So it's like we serve it with dinner. But in reality, it's like, if someone served it to you as like a dessert, you'd be like, "Oh, okay, this is a dessert."
Yeah, I see.
And then like my sister-in-law makes like focaccia bread, like a garlic focaccia bread, so like a homemade bread and just like good food. And then we had a cheesecake for dessert. My mom made like a cheesecake, and it was just good food. And I got leftovers, so I will indulge in repeat Thanksgiving meals over the next day or so.
Yeah, the post Thanksgiving
it's better than the meal
sandwich, like I would call it like the Thanksgiving sub, leftover sub that's better than the actual dinner. Yeah.
So do you do pernil or do you do turkey or both?
I do pernil. Yeah.
Okay. So turkey or just pernil?
No, the pork shoulder.
Oh, there we go.
We got the we always got to come with the hog is coming in but it's
little swine.
Yeah, but for me, I actually prefer, even though, as you said earlier, I am a Puerto Rican man from the Bronx, I do prefer the American Thanksgiving.
Well, so what did you have?
So we had
rice, pernil, definitely.
Rice and peas, but in Spanish it's called arroz con condole, and with a little bit of salchicha. So You can even do it with Vienna sausages,
Mm-hmm.
like
I know
little
what you're talking about.
yeah, and then the little pieces of salchicha in there. So that's the rice. Then you get the salad, the big garden salad. You get a couple of vegetables, spinach, broccoli. You get, and then you get the pork shoulder, the pernil.
Nice, dude. I forgot. I think I've asked you this, but do you speak Spanish? Did you grow up speaking Spanish?
I almost self-taught myself, but I understand it. I'm still not fluent conversationally, but I know I can. If you drop me in the middle of Colombia or like Mexico or the Dominican, I can get by, but I'm not fluent at all. No.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, God, I know when you always do. You always take that moment to do the
Yeah.
right pronunciation.
Yeah.
And I never knew that
You're
because
right.
your parents didn't speak Spanish. They didn't
They
speak
know
Spanish at
they
home?
do. They're native speakers. Yeah. I blame them for my brother and I not being completely fluent in Spanish. I'm not saying that as an insult, but they should have made us bilingual from when we were a child, because that's the best time to learn both
Oh yeah.
languages.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like not untrue of a lot of like not immigrant parents, but parents who grew up speaking a different language. It's like either I think a lot of them kind of like force their kids not to learn the language.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, no, we want you to like like my dad grew up, his parents were not from America. And like his mom spoke Italian, but like his dad spoke English, and they pretty much spoke English. Because he kind of like wanted them to be like fully Americanized.
No, that's a good point, because
You
I
know?
think the rationale from my parents would be, they wanted me to be like sharp with English for academic purposes,
Yeah.
so that there were no obstacles to what I was learning in school. But now that we move on to the modern era in 2024, it is better. Like, being bilingual is so much more advantageous. But in the 90s, you didn't think that way. You thought, my kids need to be perfect English speakers. They have to be perfect. And
I mean, yeah. Go
sorry,
ahead,
to my grandmother was always, God rest her soul. She's passed, but she's still around, because you know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
When you pass, you're not gone. It's just a transformation. So she's still around, and she would always say, "Why aren't you making them bilingual?" And I think because my sister-in-law is Chilean, so my niece is going to grow up being bilingual, and it's going to be so much beneficial to her just living life. It's not even an academic or a career thing.
Yeah.
Just living life, she's going to be fluent in both languages.
Yeah, I was literally going to say the same thing. Like, just for your like well-being as a person, and like
just day to day,
your brain. I think it's just positive.
Mm-hmm.
All right, dude. So, this episode is going to. I sent Rob. So there's a guy on. First, let me give a shout out to this one YouTuber that I discovered. Though, I mean, he has many people, so like I didn't really discover him. I came to the table late, but it's called the Y Files. He's got like 4.3 million subscribers, so he's been around for a while, and he makes these like very like well done videos, kind of like a documentary-esque. They're usually like maybe 40 minutes at the longest, but they're like very much, they tackle like conspiracies and just like interesting, how would you put it? I'd put like conspiracies, the paranormal,
mysteries,
the
occult.
Kind of think like X-Files meets Ancient Aliens. Like, if you could put that in a pot together with maybe some other random conspiratorial type programs and mix it all up.
A little sprinkle of Alex Jones government, shadow government. Yeah.
Bingo bongo. And you mix it all up, put it in a pot, put it in the oven, set it to cook, and then you get the Y Files. So I watched this one episode and I sent it to Rob because I knew Rob would get off on this. So this episode, I'm just going to set the table. And then I'm going to pass the mic over to Bobby A, because he did like anything else. If I want to learn something, I pass it to Bobby A, because he's going to do a deep dive. in the evenings, when he is like, going rooftop to rooftop via Twitter, X, he's out there. He's sucking up information.
Yeah.
So you always learn more from him. But anyway, this episode is called Project Bluebeam. So there's a conspiracy called Project Bluebeam that kind of came out of, let's see, like late 1970s, 1980s, and it was spearheaded by this French Canadian journalist named Sergei Monast. And essentially, it talks about this uncovering of a plot to slowly, this one world government, this stages of takeover that the governments of the world or the government behind the government would enact in order to essentially subvert and control the populace. So I sent this video to Rob, hoping to maybe see if this would be food for an episode. And
it worked.
Yes. What did you take from that, from what you watched?
First of all, you were using a lot of zesty words there before sucking up, getting off. Let's pump the brakes on that one.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was you. But we move.
It was scintillating.
Yes, yeah, it definitely was. But all right, so I think we should go through this by the stages, the 4 stages, because as I told you privately, this is something that I'm not unfamiliar with. But as you said, this YouTube channel lays it out in a good way to consume and digest this information. It's really like, it's like the Apple of conspiracy. You can just turn it on, plug and play, and use like, the way he formats it is good. So kudos to him for that part. So the first is, like you said, Project Bluebeam has 4 components. It has one religion, one god, mind control, and then my favorite part, the alien invasion. So religion, what do you think about that part, Chris? So religion, basically, I'll lay out his theory, or the theory of Bluebeam. Religion, they're going to slowly dissipate all the religions around the world and trying to combine them into one world religion, so that everyone has the same faith, the same cultural beliefs, and the same they read the same text. You can call it a Bible or Quran or the Torah, whatever. There's going to be one text, one belief, one spirituality, and for everybody. So that's step 1, is combining all the religions into one. Now, you're the spirituality expert on the show. How do you think that can be possible? Because he says, he lays out a way that they can do it, but I don't know, man. I mean, that could take a long time to get done.
Yeah. So what I liked in the show, and we kind of mentioned off air, is that, like, the guy who makes the show does such a good job, because he starts out like 100% like this conspiracy is happening, and then at the end he kind of like starts to poke holes in it.
Yeah.
But in his description, right, of this first pillar, right, there's like the general idea that, one way to control people is essentially, if you you need to get people all on board under like the same belief system. So we all have different religions. There's many different religions, different belief systems. So how they describe it in the program is how, everyone is going what should we call the architects of this? I don't want to say the government. What word do we want to use?
The word
Cabal, Illuminati.
I don't like those words. I just call them the ominous they. Okay. And I took that from Tyrion from Game of Thrones. If anyone remembers, it was like, he's like, they, the ominous they, the shadows, the men and women in the shadows, I would call it.
Okay, so we'll use that. I like that. So they, in this, within the context of this story, they are. Hold on a second. Sorry. So what they've identified essentially is that like so there's these pillars, right? Pillars of control.
Mm-hmm.
In one case, one of the mechanisms of control is to pull all people within the same umbrella of belief. And the big part of that is, right, it's like we talked about this in the last episode, right? God, a God, little g God, whatever that God is, right,
Mm-hmm.
is going to be supersede the government, right? So if you can control who that God is and what that God tells his people to do, like that's a huge mechanism of control. And in this, they say, well, how are you going to do that? Well, one, this part of this conspiracy is that at one point, everyone will look up to the sky and they will see their God, Buddha, Jesus, whoever that might be,
Mm-hmm.
Allah.
Yeah.
And that God will be speaking to them inside their heads. And then as this entity is speaking to them, the entity, for everyone is hearing and seeing their God, whoever that is. And then all of a sudden it's going to transform into some other form, right? So in a sense, they're converging all of the religions into one entity, and that entity will pretty much say, all of these other beliefs are wrong. I am the one that you really should be following. So it's kind of crazy. I mean, I think that
Uh-huh.
that would work for a lot of people.
Yeah, I have a question to ask you when you're finished.
So I think that would work for a lot of people, but I like how he characterizes this as one pillar in this plan, because not everyone would be swayed by that, but I do think many people would be swayed. Go ahead.
Yeah, yes. So that's just perfect segue, because my question is, notice how the first, like you said, the first pillar or component or element, or the first uh, tactical
strategy.
maneuver
Yeah.
is to combine religion. So does that validate how like extremely influential and important people's religious beliefs are? I think if you watch this
Oh
video, it
yeah.
does. That's the
Yeah,
first
100%.
thing they're going to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 100%. I mean, also you got to think, like, I think this is very true and accurate. Like, because remember, religion is made by people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, there is truth, whatever that truth is. I'm not going to even quantify it. But then, like, religion is like human beings taking truth and then putting it within a system of ideals and tenets and whatever, right? It's interesting how, like, so many cultures that we know about, the priestly class and the ruling class were like two sides of the same coin. Like, and many, like, if you go read like history books, and again, I think from my perspective, it's like you got to take everything you read with a grain of salt, because again, none of us lived in that time, but at least how like history is portrayed to us, it's so often that the power class, right, the government, the king, the royalty, and the priestly class, like they were kind of like always in cahoots. So I think that's like very clear, like for a long time, that people have
Yep.
realized that, like, if you want to keep people under control, like there are the gods, the priests are the interface between the people and the gods, and then also they are like in partnership with the king, who was dubbed by the gods to rule all of these people. So like I think that's 100% accurate. Like I do think that would be very useful. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's interesting about America, right? Like, America separated in its infancy, like the
Yeah.
church, religion, let's just call it that, and power. So, religion might still influence and help, but they can't be directly, like, there's no Church of America like there is a Church of England.
That's right. It's in the Constitution. Correct. Yeah.
Right. And then a lot of Muslim countries, right? Like I would imagine the power dynamic, the priestly class
Yeah.
is kind of high up and also kind of like in relationship with the people who rule. I think like Iran, for example.
Yeah.
So like that's not new. And I think that's like very clear in a secular country like in America, for example, or a country where that's that power is like, no, 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 no. The government and the church are two separate things. I would imagine if you were in power, you would like to find a way to kind of reconnect those. Because if you can wield it, it becomes like a very nice handle to control people.
Yeah, exactly. In much of the Muslim world, um, Islam is intertwined with the state. It and it the people in government are practicing um, these Islam. But notice how, remember when JFK was elected, it was a big deal because he was the first Catholic president. So in America, they tried it. They try to split it. But however, I think the U.S. is much less secular than people realize. The Christianity has a big influence, and we saw that in the past election. Like, religion still has a stronghold in America, and I think it's coming back on an upswing. It went down for a while, but it's coming back. So, but and obviously in places like the Middle East, in Palestine, in Israel, you have the government is just straight up about religion for the most part. So
Yeah.
it's so if you're going to execute Bluebeam, that's a good place to start. So
Yeah. I think it's also interesting in their portrayal that was the first place they started.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to get your thoughts on that. It's interesting
like
that religion is the first thing.
Yeah, because you would have thought. Okay, so go ahead. Because I would have thought that the last pillar would have been the first pillar, but I kind of feel like by getting everyone into one belief system, it's already like you've like, if you can accomplish that, you've accomplished like the most of the heavy lifting. Because it is really interesting. Like, right, we're all very divided. We have different portrayal, different perspectives on things, right? If you can unite people under one belief system, it is massively powerful. Like it is kind of like it's massively powerful. It's difficult, I think, right? But like if you can accomplish it, you now can harness. Again, people will do things out of fear, but I think you can get a person to do much more out of belief, right? Like,
yeah, I agree with that.
you know what I mean? Like, take someone who's like a suicide bomber, right? And they've existed in many different faiths, let's say, or political ideals. But like, you could take someone's family and say, I'm going to kill them unless you go do this thing. That will work. I would imagine like there's going to be people who even in that case are saying, I'm not going to do this heinous thing. Kill my family. Like you know what I mean? But if you believe you're an agent of God, an agent of what's good, like people will do a lot of things. People will sacrifice themselves. They will sacrifice others because they believe like, their immortal soul is on the right side of this conflict. So like if you could pull that off, I can't imagine.
Yeah, I think the last part of your statement rings true, because the reason why people would buy into that is, once again, we're going to go back to your immortality and if your soul is eternal. The reason why you would buy into that completely is because when we all eventually die, because that's going to happen, we all know this, you want to be able to have some kind of happiness in the next phase of your existence.
Yeah, you want to believe you're on the right side of truth.
Right. You want paradise at the end of it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, think about this: is like sorry to cut you off.
No.
But like right. with like I think with Islam, or let's just say with terrorism, right? The foot soldier who's being sent to bomb and potentially kill himself is probably being filled up with one idea, but the person above him probably doesn't believe that same idea, right? It's like the Crusades, right? You could send in a person to go fight in the name of God, but the person sending them to fight has other things on his mind, i.e., like, well, I want this land, I want this gold, I want these treasures, right? So I think that you see
definitely true
right there, right? The person on the bottom is doing something, I would almost say, with a pure heart, right? They're misguided. but the people that they trust, who are supposed to tell them about like the hereafter, are essentially taking advantage. And I think you can see that paradigm in many different environments. So again, rinse and repeat, you get the same output now, right? All these people who want to be right and do the right thing, misguided and taken advantage of. And then can you only imagine what they would do in the name of that kind of belief?
Yeah, exactly. Like
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
eternal happiness.
Yeah.
All right. So the second component, it's very close, but it's also there's a humorous portion to this. So the second component of the project, number 2 pillar, is making everyone believe in one God. But the funny part is, he said, or at least this is what Blue Beam wanted to do, is project holograms. So now we're going to get into the technological AI part of it.
And let me, because I have also the wiki up now. I'm sorry, because for step one, step one is like a new discovery.
Yeah.
Right. Step one requires the breakdown of all archaeological knowledge. Right. So they did, in an earthquake, they discover some new artifact that undoes all of our belief of the past.
All right. Yeah.
Which then leads into what you're talking now, the step 2. Go ahead.
Yeah. So step 2 would be putting holographic projections into the sky. So basically putting on light shows in the sky that are so realistic that in a country like Italy, you're going to put Jesus up. In Iran, you're going to put Allah up. And in Israel, you're going to put up Yahweh, God.
Yeah.
So you're going to make all these figures appear in the sky and tell you that everything you believe is not true, because there's this new discovery that we made, like you said. That's the true belief, and you have to undo everything you did and believe that. So that's crazy. But what that, and the comedy side of that is, there's a South Park episode that it deals with like religious wars. I don't know if that's the title of the episode, but I think it's close to that. And yeah, Trey Parker and Matt Stone are geniuses. They took the sign of the cross, they took the cross, they took the Star of David, and then they took, I forgot what symbol, what's the crescent symbol for Islam. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the moon.
Yeah, exactly. They took that, and all the symbols come together, and it makes the logo of Van Halen. and then Van Halen comes out and starts playing Panama. They made an episode. South Park kind of predicted Blue Beam, or maybe that's what they were trying to do.
Or they're influenced by.
Or they kind of were going down the rabbit hole of that, and it's like, we should make an episode about this. It's hilarious. That episode is hilarious. And then it's like a rock concert, so you see everyone from Muslim countries, Judaism and Christian as well, and they're all partying at the concert while Van Halen is rocking out. It's those symbols all come together and make the Van Halen logo. That's genius. But yeah, so it's pretty much that. Now the worrying side about that is, where is this technology coming from that they can like project a movie basically into the sky that looks so real that people are going to believe it?
Well, and that's why it's funny, because when you watch the Y-File, that's a point where he's like, okay, well, we really don't have that ability, so we think. But I think the overall, I mean, isn't that just to some degree probably a matter of time, right? Where that is possible. But I think the underlying strategy, I think it would make sense, right? And I think you've seen this happen at different times in history, where like someone will try to like reinvent the religion of his people, like a king will try to like augment it in some way for like their own, from some other purpose, in order to like, curtail the behavior or like enhance a certain type of behavior. So I mean, I again, we talked about this at one point, like I think a couple weeks ago. Like to me, hearing that, I was like, that's like, I don't know if you could do it. I don't know if the way that they are portraying it would be done is even possible. But like from a strategic standpoint, like imagine that. Like imagine if all of a sudden overnight, all of the Islamic countries and the country of Israel both sat down and set aside their like centuries of belief for a new belief. Now these people would no longer, well, theoretically, they'd be on the same side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like all of these things would, all of these divisions would no longer exist, which you might say is a good thing. But again, it comes down to, well, what now is their new belief system and what are they being told to do from, the Most High? Uh, who knows?
Yeah, it's that one is the most disturbing to me because if they can develop, maybe the next one is equally as disturbing as well. But that one is like, if they can show things in the sky, maybe all the UFOs that we've seen are I've actually read
Yeah.
something about that they're holograms designed to just like distract people and manipulate them, which leads into the next one. So yeah, the one God. So you get the new discovery, combined religion, then you get the one God that everyone follows,
Mm-hmm.
but not everyone is good because you're gonna have people like me. It's like I don't care about religion,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Y-Files goes into that. He's like, what about the people that are not going to be swayed by faith and religious belief and spirituality? Then comes the next one, the mind control. That one is crazy.
Yeah, that
So
was pretty scary.
yeah, that's scary. So basically all our electronic devices, anything that gives off electronic, I would say like a feed, is designed to slowly erode our brain to the point where it's basically slow drip brainwashing to the point where we'll believe anything that the people that they want us
Yeah.
to believe. And it's now, what do you think about this? Apparently it's been going into effect already, and you could kind of see it with a lot of the social media stuff and all that.
Yeah.
You could
I
kind
mean,
of see some of it, the origins of this happening.
yeah, I mean, so step 3, it gets again, like, ladies and gentlemen, for you, this is a fun thing we're talking about. I'll add in the direct, like in the comments, or in the description, like the original Wi-Fi episode, and also like a link maybe to this, the actual conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to listen to. I think for one thing I just want to say as we're talking about it is like, whether this is real or not, it's kind of like take it as like this is fun to listen to. But there's aspects of this that I'm like, I think anyone who
Yep,
reads them
exactly.
will say, maybe this is not happening this way, but like you could see how aspects of this maybe are being used now in some capacity, and in a future day, you could think some person being like, you know what, let's give this a shot. So like what you're describing now, like social media, I think, you're seeing your first foray, and not even first foray, you're seeing like propaganda and psyops done broadly. Like, I think the one thing that's positive is that I do think that human beings we're slowly becoming inoculated to lies. Like, I actually think something is happening right now that might even be like a flu shot to some of this. And that's why I think step 1 and 2 are so important, is that you need to like shock the organism into a state where he's no longer thinking rationally, and he or she's bombarded by like something supernatural, right?
Yeah.
Because right now, like, I think we're growing accustomed to the idea that like the people in charge lie. And like people like to say, "Oh, well, like we always knew." It's like, no, you really didn't. Like,
yeah, it's been happening for as long as government has existed.
and like the news, for example, like, I mean, I don't think either the news is drastically changed in our lifetime, or we've just become like we've peeked behind the curtain, and really the news has always been a little bit biased and also kind of like pushed propaganda, and we just never really identified it, and now we are. Or the media's changed so dynamically that like they've just become propagandists. Like I think that's like
Yeah.
at this point now it's like whether no matter what your political views are, there's just enough people clipping the news where like people get caught in lies and get caught in like broad lies, like lies that are almost so blatant that it's like this is not an accident, like this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or clips where like multiple news carriers are like literally using the same phrases, the same sentences, the same vocabulary.
I noticed that. We talked about that. I
Yeah.
noticed that during the post-election fallout on MSNBC and CNN, they were all using the same phrases, all of them.
Correct. And it's like, all right, this can't just be random. Like it's just this can't be random. Like you're using these same unique constructions of words.
Mm-hmm.
No, like that. There's some they involved there. I don't know what degree of they there is, but there's someone saying, "Hey, you need to say it this way."
Yeah,
Over here, you need to say it this way.
I know the mainstream media. I think, like you said, the veil has been pulled back. We know that they're completely captured now by corporate interests, pharmaceutical companies, private equity, whatever you want to call it. They're in America, at least. I can only speak for America. I haven't watched, but I would imagine it's similar abroad as well. It's all the message that's sent down from the script. Now I'm good at now the foil hat is on.
Yeah, Mulder has appeared.
Yeah, so it's a narrative that's set by corporations like Pfizer, Viacom, Disney, NBC Universal, and they all trickle it down to the pundits that appear on your television screen, and they're all being fed information and being told, given scripted outlines. Obviously, I'm speculating here. I'm not saying I have facts here, but I think people are, like you said, they're wising up to the fact that, yeah, I'm not going to listen to the channel. I think it's CNN that every time CNN cuts a commercial, it's all pharmaceutical brand. It's for 4 minutes straight. It's all take this pill, take this. You're not feeling well. Take this, take this, take this, and then it comes back, and then they go back to commercial break, and it's all pharmaceutical companies again. So, you know what I'm saying? Like that.
Yeah.
It's. But to your point, Chris, if they're doing it in plain sight, what's the best place to hide? Where's the best place to hide? In plain sight.
Yep.
Always. So you become desensitized to it, and that's part of the mind control part, where I see, like you said, the I don't know about these electronic waves that are changing, and he said you can hear the voice of your God in your head. I don't know about all that, but maybe. I don't know if that's going to be possible in the future, but I can tell you right now, social media and the mainstream news are designed to manipulate you into doing something that they want you to do. I think that's clear now. I think the election proved it. That's validation that has been happening over the last 4 years. And all this crazy shit that they were AI imposing Kamala Harris's face on a McDonald's worker. She didn't really work. Did you hear all this? No.
No.
So the latest JRE is Protect Our Parks, and they talked about all this, where apparently Harris never worked at McDonald's, and they superimposed her face on someone who was a worker at McDonald's in the 80s, because she said, just to make her more relatable, like she's a common person. You see what I'm trying to say? Because everyone, and that's the one thing about the wealthy class that's very, very deplorable, and it was just outright repulsive to me. They all want to say they started from the bottom and now they're at the top. Everyone wants the rags to riches story. Everyone wants to be, oh, we struggled,
Yeah.
we're the common folk, when the majority of them were born into extreme wealth and they had every opportunity and every advantage in front of them. But it's better to be associated with the common person, because it makes you, not only does it make you more relatable, it makes you cooler. Oh, look what you accomplished. You came from no
Yeah.
means and now look where you are. But most of these people were born with this, as soon as they came into the world, they had every opportunity in front of them.
Yeah. I'm
That was a side rant. That's a tangent.
No, it's good. Yeah, I mean, I do think it's kind of, well, I think part of the issue is it's like if your party is historically supposed to be labeled as like the party of the people, like it becomes like almost like you have to. Okay, well, like how do you say you're for the people if have always lived a charmed life? Everyone has problems, even wealthy people. But again, you know what I mean? Like, what do you have in common with the everyday man or woman if always had or had an
Yeah.
abundance, right? And then you say you're part of the party that understands. It's like, well, I find it's like they kind of inevitably they have to. It's like every politician's always trying to like, show that they know what it's like to work a day. Some do. I'm not going to generalize. I actually found it was an old clip of a debate between Hillary Clinton and Trump. This was the one that Dave Chappelle actually talked about on SNL, and how they're debating. And again, Hillary Clinton, who's lived a pretty charmed life, I think, for the better part of her life. I don't think she was born wealthy, but for the majority of her life at this point, she's been on the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she's like, this is when they were running against each other, and she's trying to kind of like play this game of like, well, you have all this, you've lived this wealthy, charmed life, and like, and then, yeah, what does he say? What does she say? It's like, you did all this thing, and you have all this money, and da da da, and then she goes down the rabbit hole of like taxes and how like, well, and you don't pay your taxes, and then it's funny because like that's supposed to be like a huge, like dart thrown at him. Yeah. And it's funny because Trump like turns it on her, and he's like, no, I have not. Like, I obeyed the tax code. He's like, and he goes through all of like the tax loopholes, but he's like, they're there. Like, why would you not take advantage of them? And he's like, why did you, if you know that these laws exist and you believe that they are unjust, why have you not, in all of the years you've been a senator, tried to fix them, remove them? And then he says, because all of your donors take advantage of the same loopholes that I do. The ones lining your pockets take advantage of these same things, and that is why you do not try to remove them, right? Again, it's this, I don't know where I'm going with this, but
yeah,
but again, it's go ahead, go. What we're gonna say?
No, I think what you're trying to say is what I always say is follow the money. Money fixes almost every problem in America. It does.
It fixes most problems in most places, right?
Yeah.
Well, money is power, essentially, and
yeah.
and
no, but in other continents, it's like I was alluding to earlier. It's more of like a religious belief. It's like a cultural lifestyle that rules more. In America, it's the dollar note. That's what matters the most.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was trying to make a point, and I've completely lost. I lost the point I was trying to make. I guess my point is that, like, right at the end of the day, that's part of it, right? Everyone is trying to, like, if people want power, they want power. If you're supposed to be on the side of the people, you have to make some claim that you understand their plight.
Yeah, you have to associate with the struggle. Yeah,
right. And it's like, no, you didn't struggle. B, now you're lying about it. And I guess in my example, it's like you actually don't need to be like, you can help people rather than saying like, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. You could just be like, no, I'm wealthy. I identified there are problems. Let's try to get everyone
That's exactly what I was
higher up
just
the
gonna
food
say.
chain, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's why people kind of like Trump a little bit. It's like, because he's not like unabashed at the fact of like he's wealthy. Dude's wealthy. But I think he's kind of like, all right, well, yeah, there are some, the game is a little bit rigged. Let's try to get rid of some of these loopholes, or at least get everyone into a position where they can take advantage of the same loopholes. And I'm going to leave my rant, but I just read today, and I could be wrong, so someone can fact check this, but that, like when you do your taxes, and now the like you can do like a standard deduction. You know what I'm talking about when you do your taxes? Do you do your taxes?
I do my own taxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like you can deduct, you can put all of your deductions in there, or you can take like the standard deduction, which is like $2,000.
Yeah. Oh, don't tell me. I'm worried what are you about to say next.
I'm pretty sure what I read, this again, you have to factor, Trump is responsible for having the standard deduction increased to like 2,000 or 2,500. Like, now everyone can essentially take off their when they do their taxes like 2,000 or whatever it is. I think it's $2,000. I think prior to him, we'd have to look this up, it was much less. So that's why people would have to like, they're trying to like figure out, okay, did I donate any money? Did this? Can I deduct this? Can I deduct that? Now, for most people, every time I've done my taxes in the last 4 years, the standard deduction is always much more than if I try to like look through all of my statements and like try to like add up deductions. So like that's a way that essentially that benefit's been applied to everyone.
Okay, this is the type of thing that pisses me off. I might swear. I'm sorry, but you're telling me all through my mid-20s to mid-30s, I was leaving money on the table because the government was like, just give him, just make it easier for him, and we'll take the rest of it, even though he deserves more. We're just gonna say, oh, because it's when you're filing, it's easier to just do standard deduction, so you don't have to itemize and break everything down. I left money on the table. Is that what you're telling me?
It depends. So right. if your if your standard deduction, like anyone can take the standard deduction, it's like 2,000.
Yeah.
Most people, literally, like I've tried, like if you add it up, the standard deduction is actually better for you. It's more money, right? For most people, they're like, so standard deduction, right? If you think you can deduct like what? Donations, charitable donations, you can deduct some work things. So there's a list of things you can deduct. So you can go through all your statements, you can itemize. If your deductions are more than the standard deduction, then you can take that. Right? So let's say the standard deduction is $2,000. So anyone can take $2,000 off. But you do all your math and yours is like $3,000. Well, then you don't need to take the standard deduction. You can just submit all of that information and take the $3,000. But for most people, the standard deduction is actually higher. So I believe Trump had the standard deduction increase. Right, so now more people can take off more money off their taxes.
Okay.
You follow?
I got you now. So, but anyway, I'm pretending to be mad about this now that while you were talking, I was thinking about it. Because in my 20s, most of my money went to the bar. So let's be real. Exactly. Let's be real about it. Correct. I didn't have assets like that. So correct. The SD was probably my boy back then.
Yeah, it was like, oh great, I can take $2,000 off. Like really, I haven't given. You know what I mean? That's so like the higher that number goes, it actually helps people because, again, like you said, most people are not donating. They don't have a lot of things to take off for deductions.
Yeah.
But by just however that law is, oh, okay, I can take $2,000 off. Boom, I can lower my taxable income. Boom, right, easily. Check that box. $2,000 taken off.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right.
Anyway,
I was about to get worked up, but I was like, I want everyone to know I'm not full of shit. I know what I did in my 20s.
We diverted.
Yeah. All right. So the last pillar. Yeah. So mind control, it's kind of happening now. but in a different way that I guess was laid out in this project.
Yeah.
It is happening in multiple different ways. Now, my favorite part of it, as I said, it's the threat of alien invasion is
Oh,
going to be
yes.
it's the linchpin. It's the closer for this.
Yeah, which was crazy.
I don't know how much I believe it, because for me, if you're going to
Oh.
ask me, I don't think the threat, it's an empty threat. I don't think it'll be hostile, but I do think there's extraterrestrial life out there. So why would it be an empty threat? I don't think it's going to be like a smoke and mirrors game.
Oh
You
man,
see what
we
I'm saying?
talked about this. It's funny. That's why I sent you this video, is because when this particular part came up, we've had this conversation recorded multiple times,
Mhm.
right? Remember, I love in the example he gives of all of these more recent government
Yeah.
connected whistleblowers, but they're really not whistleblowers because they're all still connected to the government, right? And I love all the clips where he's like, all of these people, when asked, they pretty much say, I can't tell you this. Like you know, I for you know, for security purposes, I can't reveal this. Like, so they lead you on emotionally to believing something, but yet when pushed, they pretty much all say like, I can't reveal this. Like, I talked to the government. This is not something I'm allowed to talk about. So it's like they're dangling this, like, lore, but they're never like put into a situation where they ever have to cough up any like actual evidence. I don't know, man. I buy this. I buy it hard, actually.
So you think
Yeah.
this new uprising of releasing all these information and all this these multiple congressional hearings, it's all part of a giant plan that's all fake? I don't know if I can believe that.
I don't
I
know if
don't believe it.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I think some people are also like, there's people that are complicit, and then there's people that are also just taken in, right? Like, again, like these what are they called? Congressional meetings. Like, those are elected officials that are like deciding to have these events, right? So that's one. I don't think like elected officials are like they, right? Because elected officials,
They're not.
they come and they go, right? But a lot of times, some of these people that are brought on to talk and to be like actual credible sources,
They're pawns. Is that what you're saying?
or I mean, less even pawns. They are like agents of the they.
Mm.
Because again, it's funny how Joe Rogan, I mean, not to bring him up like as the be all end all, but like that guy was deep down the alien rabbit hole for lots of years, him and Eddie Bravo. It is interesting that of late, you hear him to some degree having skepticism when it comes to especially some of these guys. Like, who was the guy, the recent guy, what was his name? There's two guys. There's one guy has like a weird goatee, and the other guy's kind of balding. Is it Rush? Was the one guy's name?
No.
Rush.
Is this an episode of JRE that they were?
Yeah, Jerry's had two different people on recently, and in the Y-File episode, he had clips of them. But in both cases, they are still in communication and in relationship with the government. They don't even deny that. Like, most times, they're like, "Yeah, I can't talk about that." Right? I forget the guy's name, the Grush guy. He was the first one that kind of like hit the big news, like. That guy said before, he's like, "Oh yeah, I went to the military.
Yeah.
We discussed what I could talk about, and now I'm So it's like, but you're not a whistleblower then. Like, you're in the military still. And again, most cases they're like, I was a person to a person who saw a thing, and then I'm telling you about this thing. Again, no evidence. They never provide any evidence. It's all hearsay. And again, like, you want to, that's why I thought this was weird that this was the fourth pillar. If you wanted to get all of America and all of the world together, provide them a common enemy.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I believe that part of it. Have everyone having one common enemy would be very effective. However, as an enthusiast and a researcher, um, I don't think any of this is fake. I'm just gonna say it. People would be like,
That's
"Oh,
fine.
maybe you don't, maybe you're just biased, perhaps." But no, the things that I've read, I've never seen anything in person, so I have no personal experience. But from what I can just know mathematically
Wait,
and
wait.
through my research method, no,
Okay.
just mathematically in terms of just the size of the universe. Yeah. But we could also get into the conspiracy
But can
side.
two things be both right? Like, can aliens exist in some part of the universe,
But
and
they've
yet
never
all of this
contacted.
evidence is fabricated, or the evidence of people seeing things does not necessarily need to align with the fact of like these people corroborating that? Like, if I go outside and I say I see some vision of something, right? Someone else can go outside and say they saw the same thing and didn't, and then use that for whatever end they want to see it. Oh, I saw that thing, and that thing said that we need to like gather together and like go kill those people over there, right? You know what I mean? Anyone can co-opt another person's vision and another sighting for their own goal, right?
Yeah, that's
So like,
true.
I don't think one needs to exclude the other, but I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think both of them could be true.
Yeah.
It's definitely possible. I'm not completely dismissing the possibility of that. And it goes back to what you said. Do you actually trust these? Because you have a distrust of just governments in general, which I'm
Yes.
starting to subscribe to that. It's um, basically this election cycle really made me think twice about the just like high level government in America. And even with like the wars, the two, I would say, I guess you can call both of them wars. I don't know if you could call the other one, that's more of an attack in my opinion. But the Middle East one.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but man, I know. It's just a feeling. It's like Fox Mulder, man. That's what I am. I just know it. I just know the things that I've read about and the feelings that I've experienced. Obviously, like I said, I have no concrete evidence, but
Well, what did you
I
think in that video? Let me see if I can pull up the video so I can get the guy's name. In part of the video, he has a clip. Let me see if I can find it. And it's like someone who is kind of like an alien. I'm gonna call it like a UAP researcher, someone in that community, and even he's like calling into question. See if I can find the actual video. He's even calling into question these two guys' comments. So the one guy's name is Luis Elizondo. That's
we
the
talked
one
about him
guy.
already. Yeah,
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 that guy's connected to the government, and I think in the clips he shows, he
yeah.
still answers questions like from that perspective of like I can't reveal that, like that's kind of classified. So like he's not a whistleblower, right? He's not like a free agent who is like
Yeah, but
found some deep secret like Edward Snowden is now like run, you know what I mean, on the run. He's
but
like
look what
still
happened to these guys. What if he's in physical danger if he does it? You see what I'm saying?
well, but I mean, if you're in communication with I don't know, like I don't know if you can take that person's what they say to be accurate. You know what I mean? Like if you're saying, oh well, like the government, I have these secrets, and okay, the government is allowing me to talk about X, Y, Z, but this other thing over here I can't talk about. Like you're in a weird relationship with the government. How can I trust what you're really saying? Because you're saying what the government is allowing you to say. You're not a free agent. You're not Edward Snowden on the run, just like revealing secrets. You're revealing, like, I don't even know what you'd call what you're revealing. Glimpse of a secret, a little taste of a secret.
Yeah, like a
I don't know.
morsel. But
a morsel, a pre-digested secret that's been regurgitated and then
yeah,
allowed to be given like
it's
a mama bird to everyone else.
yeah, it's all appetizers. That's exactly. But here would be my best evidence, my best case that I can put forward. Let's go back to ancient history. Let's go back to Graham Hancock. How did all those things happen? Was it assistance from interdimension, or was it something that was it like a high advanced civilization? Because I know you have a lot of faith in human beings. You're like, we discredit the amount of work that hundreds of thousands of human beings can do, but there's also things that are inexplicable. Ancient times, we're not even talking about spinning discs in the air. How did these things happen all over the world from ancient times?
Dude, we can go down the rabbit hole of ancient aliens. Like, what if what we're seeing are actually human beings that were so advanced
It
that
could
they
be
left
that.
the
It
Earth,
could be
right?
that.
Like, that's one thing. Also, again, when you go down the ancient aliens or the Graham Hancock route, because Graham Hancock is not like of the ancient aliens perspective.
No,
He's just more like human beings, and our history is much more. It's much longer and much more diverse and fruitful than like
then it's
we want to believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, I don't know. I mean, you go down this weird rabbit hole where people talk about the pyramids being machines of some sort.
Yeah, like
right?
power plants.
Correct.
Yep.
So I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess I think I don't have strong. I do distrust the government. And I do distrust people who like act as if they have secrets, but then also can't reveal those secrets. And like, so like you can go out and be on TV, but and claim a secret exists, but you're not allowed to provide any evidence of that secret. Like, to me, that whole scenario is like distrustworthy to me.
Yeah,
like,
no, I
why
feel
would
you.
I
I feel
don't
you.
trust you. So you're telling me there's a secret, you're pulling me along, but I can't show you the secret. It's like these old shows where it's like, we're gonna go into the Pharaoh's tomb, and we're the next commercial break, we're gonna reveal what's in the Pharaoh's tomb, and it like you never get anywhere, right? It's just like pulling you along, drawing out time. I feel like some of these are like that. All right, we're running out of time.
We can end on this. I'll pose you this last question.
Go ahead.
So yeah, I feel you. I
know
don't believe
nothing.
I don't
know
believe you,
anything.
but I
don't know anything.
feel you. I obviously, it's not lost on me. I understand what you're saying. However, here's a question: what if the UFOs? What if all this? What if I accept and I concede that these hearings and all this information coming out is a distraction, is a facade designed to manipulate the public?
Mm-hmm.
But not for the reason you're thinking, not because they're trying to control everyone's mind, but because this is a distraction to hide the fact that in antiquity, they know for a fact that we had contact with interdimensional beings. I'm not even going to call them aliens. They could be people that can move around, or it could be, like you said, old humans that went to another. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. What if just the spinning disc, the little green men, the Roswell stuff? What if all that is the gimmick? Yes, I concede it's the gimmick, but it's to hide the fact that in the past, in the ancient past, we did have interaction with aliens, and they don't want that to come out. You see, you get what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying. I would then, I guess my question to your question would be, what is let's say the governments of the world, because it wouldn't just be our government,
It would
be the
be the
governments
planet,
of the world, right, had this secret hidden away. I could concede that. right? My question would, and again, one does not make the other thing untrue, right? So like, I'm not going to dissuade this idea that aliens exist. Again, that's also the words we use. Like, I like how you describe it's like, we don't know what does that mean, right? Like interdimensional, are they time travelers? Who knows? But anyway.
Yeah.
I guess my question would be, what is the reason? Right, there's always been people talking about this. They're just always been considered like crazy people. So I guess my question would be like, why is the government getting it? Like, they never got involved in the past. Not really, right? They just let these guys, and then they discredited them in some capacity. So like, why would the government why would they be getting involved in the game now? Like,
yeah.
What, so in what way? What is their motivation?
Here's the tinfoil. They're doing this because it's covering up things in the past that they've done that they don't want to come out. It's almost like a blackmail. They've done, like, we're talking about murder, genocide, all that stuff. They want to cover all that up, maybe more than we already know, because in the age of exploration, we already know all that should happen. That's, but in the past, all these religions, and then we're going to go, this is a good way to circle all the way back. All these religions are founded and predicated on the fact that Jesus was the savior. Allah, and Judaism has all their big figures, Noah, Moses. They don't want people to know that Moses wasn't actually a Jewish man in the desert. It was actually someone from another dimension. They don't want that. They don't want to undermine the status quo religiously or in a government way. So they want to hide that, because if they reveal that information, no one is going to have any faith anymore. That would be my answer to that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's too deep. You could, but you understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. Well, all I would say is I would say that would go against, if that was their motivation, that would go against this idea. Again, this blue beam is also just purely, like, to some degree fictitious, but it would go against that strategy, right? Because this would be the perfect archaeological evidence to essentially undo the past and create a hard reset, which is exactly in line. Actually, that's exactly in line with Project Bluebeam.
Yeah, but the world is not ready for that yet. They still have more like manipulation to do before they start releasing this stuff. That's why they're holding back. Maybe it could be wrong. It could be wrong. That was kind of crazy, but that might. I started to convince myself as I was talking.
That's the danger when you go down the conspiracy rabbit hole, is that if you're there too long,
you start to believe everything
you can be convinced of. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this episode. What we've been talking about and rambling about is this idea of Project Bluebeam. Check it out. Food for thought. Enjoy it. Don't go down that rabbit hole too deeply. Make sure you have a safety valve to pull yourself back out. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, hope you had a great Thanksgiving and have a great night.
Peace up.